So here we go again, ladies and gents. It's that time of year where every single YouTuber has to, because it is the law on YouTube, they have to do their Premier League predictions for the upcoming season. Now, you've read the title. On first impression, first glance, I thought this is going to be the most boring, not only season, but predictions video of all time. But then I stepped back and thought about it. I thought, could this very well be a point of change, a season of change, of evolution in the Premier League? This could be the most unpredictable league of all time. We could really see a shake-up. Of course, I'm referring to City facing possible charges in October, I think it is. But as I keep saying, I don't want to dwell on that, even as a rival fan, because even if City do get charged, I feel like they'll appeal it and it will go on and on and on. But with that said, there's things that are happening all down the table, and it is a lot more exciting than first impressions would suggest. So ladies and gents, hit that like button and let's do our Premier League predictions. Let's go. In number 20, I've changed it this morning. Not just this morning, like 10 minutes ago. I was doing a little bit more research so that I could give you the most accurate predictions possible. Now, I did have a different team, rock bottom, but I now have Southampton. I'm going to get on to why I switched in a moment, but just looking at some of their transfer activity, I feel like Southampton, their squad is a lot weaker than those teams around them. You've got to remember, I mean, I've got a soft spot for Southampton. I really like Southampton, but look at the teams in the Premier League. We always talk about that gap widening between Premier League teams and Championship teams. Look at who they've recruited compared to some of the teams in and around them in that bottom half of the table. Now, Southampton, under manager Russell Martin, obviously they went on a run, didn't they, last season, unbeaten. What was it, like a lot of games unbeaten, and they beat the mighty, the massive Leeds United in the Championship final. So we can't discredit Southampton. They did well last season. It was a really competitive Championship league, but it's a whole different game in the Premier League. And the reason I've put them rock bottom, they were second from bottom. Now, I'm really hoping that this isn't the case. The last thing the Premier League needs is, firstly, for Man City to win it again. Sorry. But secondly, for the newly promoted teams to go straight back down. It's tragic. I hated last season. I know the season before they all survived, but I really don't want to see all newly promoted teams go back down this year. So I have got Leicester in 19th. Now, I did have Leicester rock bottom, but before filming, I did a little bit of research on the phone, and we all know that Leicester may well face points deductions. A points deduction, should I say, and that still could be the case. However, good news for Leicester fans. Apparently, the breaches of, was it profit and sustainability rules, they're going to be held off for a few months. Now, I think that's important. You might be thinking, well, a 10 points deduction, for example, is a 10 points deduction. It doesn't matter whether it comes now or nearer to the end of the season. But I think when you are a newly promoted team, you need to build some of that momentum. The last thing you want to be doing is going into the Premier League with a 10 points deduction or minus 10 points. Morale is going to be down. The players are going to be thinking like this is mission impossible. So that's not going to be the case. It is going to be a few months at least until Leicester see whether they will be deducted points. They brought a few people in the transfer window. We thought they might get a transfer ban. That's not happened. But similar to Southampton, I feel like that team that got relegated, I feel like that team was a better team, albeit on paper, than the team they have now. Obviously, James Maddison, Tielemans and so on, even though he's not done that much for Aston Villa. I just feel like it's a shame because they've hired Steve Cooper. And let's be honest, Steve Cooper is not a sexy name. You know, he's quite a handsome chap. But if you look at Steve Cooper, you might think, is that an upgrade as to who we had before? But I actually think he is the right appointment. He kept Nottingham Forest in the league for a couple of years. But you've got to remember as well that he bought like a lot of players for Forest when they first came up. He can't go out spending like he did at Forest for Leicester. But I think they're in safe hands with Steve. Well, they're not in safe hands, are they? Because I've got them second from bottom and they're going to be relegated. But that is mainly down to presuming they will be deducted points. Now in 18th, the other team to be relegated. This one might be a little bit controversial. Again, I like the club. I like all the teams on here. Maybe not necessarily City, Liverpool and so on. But we're going to be somewhat neutral in these predictions because I've put Bournemouth in 18th. Now, I probably would have had them just outside the relegation zone prior to Solanke getting transferred to Spurs. Just think of all those goals that Solanke has scored, especially last season. I remember Old Trafford, Bournemouth rocked up at Old Trafford and smashed Man United 3-0. Bournemouth were the underdogs. They didn't start too well last season, but they really got momentum, and I think they were the most informed team for a certain period of time around Christmas last season. However, losing Solanke is losing goals. Goals are so hard to replicate no matter who you bring in, and I really feel like they will struggle off the back of losing Solanke. By the way, DHgate sent this shirt out. This isn't an official shirt. If you want to see some DHgate shirt reviews, remember I've set up the new channel. There's going to be a link in the description below. I don't know when I'm going to post on there. That's just for a bit of fun. This is the main channel. Nothing to change on this channel. But if you want the link to this shirt or whatever, make sure you are subscribed to the new channel. I'm not going to lie to you. I spent about 200 quid on DHgate a couple of days ago, despite the fact that they're sending me out countless shirts free of charge as well to review for you guys. So probably shouldn't be endorsing that fact. So let's carry on. Number 17, I've got Ipswich. Now, a lot of Ipswich fans are saying we're crazy to think they're going to go straight back down. You don't understand what Kieran McKenna has done with this squad. No, we do. We understand that a lot of this squad was a League One squad, got promoted the previous season, back-to-back promotions, and they've still got a lot of those League One players. They have recruited, but I do feel like maybe we are underestimating Ipswich. You know, I've got them to survive. I put in brackets by the skin of their teeth. Kieran McKenna, big fan of course, but are Ipswich fans sort of over-expecting from this side? A lot of them don't even have relegation on their minds. They're going to be like, we're going to shock the Premier League and we're going to do well. And I really hope they do. I'm not begrudging them for being positive. Now, we've just spoke about Nottingham Forest. Now, Nuno, the manager, I'm not sure if he is the right fit. I feel like Forest are going to be in a similar spot. They have been for the last couple of seasons. They're definitely going to be in that relegation scrap. Now, I've got Forest in 16th, but I do feel like between Forest, Ipswich, Bournemouth, Leicester and Southampton, all 5 of them, or 6 of them should I say, no, 5 of them, 1, 2, 3, 5 of them are going to be in that scrap. I don't feel like Southampton are going to have the season they did when they were last relegated and be rock bottom by miles. I do think it's going to be close. Obviously, those points deductions with Leicester's going to come into play. But Forest, I do again feel like will just about survive. I feel like the squad Nottingham Forest has is better than those who've come up from the Championship. So there we go. Number 15, I've got Fulham. I put solid team. Obviously, they signed Emile Smith-Rowe from Arsenal. Wasn't really getting much game time at Arsenal. He could really come out of his shell at Fulham. Shown what he's shown in an England shirt at youth level, under 23 level or whatever. He's going to be a great signing for Fulham. I felt like when they lost Mitrovic, they lost sort of some firepower up front. I know we can kind of sit a little bit deeper as well. Great signing. Fulham, yeah, I think 15th as a Fulham fan isn't anything to worry about too much. I feel like they will be a little bit away from that relegation scrap, as will Wolves in number 14th. Obviously, they've got a great manager in Gary O'Neill, but they've lost some key players as well. The problem is we wrote Wolves off last year when they lost players to like Saudi Arabia and stuff. They've just lost Neto to Chelsea. Normally, with kind of that in mind, I just mentioned Solanke at Bournemouth, I'd worry, but Gary O'Neill's shown he's a great manager and he's great at using the squad he's got. So I don't think Wolves fans should worry too much. Neto's gone. Got to remember he was injured for a big part of last season as well. So there we go. Wolves in 14th. 13th, Everton. Probably a similar spot they would have been in had they not got the points deductions last season. Again, I don't think they've got enough to kind of push them into the top half of the table. Solid at the back. Sean Dyche obviously plays a certain way. Yeah, similar to last year, minus the points deduction, Everton in 13th. So this might shock a few people. Brighton in 12th. Obviously, they've lost their manager, De Zerbi. I put in brackets, could this be the decline of Brighton? Well, not necessarily a decline. They've overachieved for a couple of years. We all know they're probably one of the best run teams in the Premier League. But I feel like it's not going to catch up with them, but I feel like they're going to level off a little bit. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near a relegation scrap or anything like that. I mean, let's be honest, put into perspective, Brighton in 12th in the Premier League. Most Brighton fans would take that. So there we go, 12th for Brighton. Now, Crystal Palace, despite losing Elise to Bayern Munich, I've got them in 11th. They've still got some great players, still got Eze, obviously Mark Gay, did great for England in the Euros. I'm a little bit surprised that nobody's come in for Gay. He was solid for England. I know he plays into that kind of Southgate system. He's not your modern day defender that's going to push up into the midfield and so on, but he's solid at the back. Still think they've got a great team, Crystal Palace. I almost put them 10th. In 10th, I put Brentford. The reason being, I'm still absolutely shocked that no one's picked up Ivan Toney. I mean, he's not like the youngest striker available, he's not old either, but when you look at the fact that West Ham have bought Fulkrug from Borussia Dortmund, and as we said, Spurs have picked up Solanke. Why did Spurs go for Solanke as opposed to Ivan Toney? I mean, could there be a possible bad attitude problem? Obviously, he's got his gambling issues, or had his gambling issues, served his ban, did his time, move on. England picked him though. Gareth Southgate, squeaky clean. Gareth Southgate picked Ivan Toney, and obviously fantastic penalty taker. Yeah, so for that reason, Ivan Toney and his goals, I've got Brentford in 10th. In 9th, I was going to say, this might surprise people, but it really won't, Chelsea in 9th. I hope, like, nothing against Chelsea fans, I had no issue with Chelsea, even when they were competing with United under Mourinho and so on. No problem with the club whatsoever, but I hate this ownership. Todd Boehly, obviously, running things for Chelsea. He's made an absolute mess of the club. They spent so much money, got rid of Poch when, let's be honest, they were kind of moving in the right direction, and I really hope it bites them in the ass. They've got a Leicester manager who, let's be honest, isn't proven. I know he's got them promoted, but they had probably one of the best squads in the league. For me, I hope this really does kick the Chelsea owners up the arse a little bit. 9th place for Chelsea, not as bad as that first season where they took over. But looking at the teams above them, it's not just Chelsea making a mess of things. There's some great sides above them. So moving on, I've got Newcastle in 8th. Now Newcastle obviously have their hands tied through FFP. When they got taken over by Saudi Arabia, we all presumed in a few years' time they'd be competing for the title, especially after that great first season when they finished 4th and qualified for the Champions League. They've got Isak up front, so there is goals in there, probably one of the best strikers in the Premier League, after Haaland, of course. But I've got in my notes, we could part ways with Eddie Howe, especially with the England job sort of there available, although Lee Carsley has taken it up on an interim basis. I hope this isn't similar to the Gareth Southgate appointment where Carsley does well and they just stick with him. But I think I predicted this last season as well. I thought Eddie Howe would be the first manager sacked. For me, I think maybe their time is coming to an end. It all depends on how Newcastle get on. I've got them in 8th. That's by no means, in this day and age, a bad finish. In 7th, I've got Aston Villa. Now, a lot of Villa fans will be pulling their hair out saying we've spent the most money, or one of the most bit higher spenders in the Premier League. We're in the Champions League. The thing is, a lot of people say Villa are in the Champions League, so they're going to struggle because of that, similar to Newcastle did last season. But you've got to remember, they were in the Europa Conference League last year, playing on Thursday, which, to be honest, interferes more with the weekend's games than the Champions League does. And although they probably should have gone on to win that tournament, they did alright, and it didn't affect their league form whatsoever because, of course, they finished 4th and they will be playing in the Champions League. But I feel like the recruitment they've done, albeit quite good, I feel like they've lost better players. Like Diaby, for me, great player for them last season. Douglas Luiz to Juventus. I don't feel like the likes of Ross Barkley and Nana and stuff are better than the players they had last season. I'm just going to be straight up honest. I don't feel like they've strengthened. They're probably around the same as they were last season in terms of star power. However, the dark horse, number 6, I've got them pretty high on the list. But let's be honest, West Ham fans do expect a lot from their team, and we give them a bit of jip for it, but that's good. You should have high expectations for your club. They've got what they wanted. David Moyes is gone, and they've made some fantastic bloody signings in the transfer window. And for that reason, I've put West Ham 6th, although most West Ham fans are going to probably think they're going to finish in the Champions League spots, top 4. But 6th, great spots. Great spot for West Ham, great signings. Nicholas Füllkrug, we're going to speak about that in the Bundesliga video. Obviously, Borussia Dortmund have let Füllkrug go. He is 31 years old. They've replaced him from a prolific striker from Stuttgart, who's only, he's 28, so they've not changed things too much. West Ham have Lopetegui, they've signed Aaron Wan-Bissaka, loads of fantastic players they've signed in the transfer window. 6th place for West Ham. I think if they can solidify themselves in those European spots again, I feel like they could progress on that, and next season maybe then push for a Champions League spot. Who knows? In 5th, I've got Spurs. Obviously, we all love Ange. Lost Harry Kane late on in the transfer window last season. He's got goals in his team now in Solanke. For me, though, I don't just feel like in the squad they've not got enough for top 4. Now, this is where it gets a little bit controversial, because when I first started doing the predictions, I just presumed this was going to be Manchester United 4th, Liverpool 3rd, Arsenal second, and Man City top. Boring, predictable, probably what everyone else is predicting. But when I did step back, I thought, realistically, if Everton, Forest and so on, and possibly Leicester this season can get charged or can have points deductions, surely with the amount of charges City have, surely they're going to face at least some punishment this season. It can't go on for another season. I mentioned that they're going to end up appealing it, but remember, you will still get points deductions and then you appeal and then it gets reduced. I think it happened with Everton. But because of City's star power, because the fact that they are Manchester City and they probably are the best team in the world, I feel like City are going to get a really mediocre points deduction. I feel like they're going to get deducted like 10, 12 points, something stupid. They're going to be punished, but I feel like there's going to be uproar off the back of that. Everyone's like, how can you only deduct them X amount of points? And because they're City, I feel like they're just going to still creep into those Champions League spots regardless. So my prediction is a little bit of a bold one. I've got Man City in 4th with the points deductions in mind. Yeah, I think they will be charged, but I think it's going to be very, very tame and the quality will shine through. They're not going to get relegated as people are expecting them to do so off the back of the points deductions. So that's why I've got Manchester City in 4th. I feel like though they've not strengthened upon last season yet, because there is rumour of them signing players. One player they've been rumoured with is Bruno from Newcastle. They've let players like Alvarez go though. There was talks of De Bruyne leaving, even now maybe Ederson going. So they are possibly weakening, but we really are. But in reality, the squad is still immense. So even with points deductions, I've still got them in 4th place. Maybe I'm biased, but here we go. Manchester United back in the Champions League spots in 3rd. Now, I was really confident that United would definitely finish 3rd at least off the back of some of the signings. Lots of early transfer activity for Manchester United, but Yoro, Varane's replacement, a young defender from France, went and got injured in pre-season, and that will hinder us. I know we've just bought De Ligt as well, so you can form a partnership between De Ligt and Martinez at the back. We've also got a right back as well from Bayern Munich, so there is more defensive cover, but we're just cursed with injuries. I don't know what they're doing at Carrington, but United are forever cursed with bloody injuries. So if they can keep their players fit, I feel like this could be a cracking season for Manchester United. Xerxes up top offers something different than Højlund. Again, Højlund being injured in pre-season. Last season we would have played Kobbie Mainoo from the start. He was playing in all the pre-season games, went under the radar. So people think he just came out of nowhere, but he was in Erik ten Hag's plans early last season. I worry that Yoro is going to kind of do a similar thing. We're going to struggle a bit at the back. He's going to come into the team and everyone's going to be like, where did this guy come from? There we go. 3rd place for Manchester United. So obviously that leaves Liverpool in 2nd. Now a lot of people are looking at it as a negative that Slot has not actually signed any players. But if you look at when Fergie retired from Manchester United in 2013, David Moyes came in, made loads of changes, brought his backroom staff in, bought Fellaini and other players like that, made too many changes to a successful winning formula for decades. Whereas obviously Klopp hasn't had the same success Fergie has. Obviously Fergie, a far superior manager than Klopp. But the continuity Liverpool are going for, continuing where Klopp left off, is a really clever formula, and I like it. I feel like they've got enough, they've got a great team, and I feel like they will finish 2nd, with Arsenal, of course, finally doing it. I shouldn't be excited for Arsenal winning the league, but it's got to that point as a United fan. Anyone other than City is going to be good for the league, and let's be honest, Arsenal are working their way towards the title. Fantastic team. I do feel like Mikel Arteta does come under a little bit of criticism. I think he is a fantastic manager. I do feel like they do need another goal machine. I say a goal machine up top. Kai Havertz came into the role, the false nine kind of role, towards the end of the season. But he's a different sort of player. He's not an out-and-out goal scorer. Even like West Ham have signed Füllkrug, even someone like him just to stick on in the last 20 minutes to get you some goals. I feel like they're just lacking that. Jesus doesn't fit that bill either. But that said, who cares? Arsenal fans, I've got your top. Ladies and gents, I'm feeling pretty rough today. My throat is absolutely on fire. But we've battled through and we've got our predictions. Do you agree with my predictions? Are they way off? Or am I an absolute lunatic for some of those predictions? It's all good. We've all got our own opinions. Let me know yours in the comments below. Do you think Manchester City will be charged? Do you think the charges will be light as I've got them? Do you think they're going to be detrimental, causing City to be relegated? Or do you think this is going to drag on and on and on, and we're not going to see any punishment for Manchester City? They might have not broken any rules and they might not be punished. Either way, this could be a lot spicier a Premier League season than even I predicted. I've been really doom and gloom, really negative about the return of the Premier League. I've said this is the least excited I've ever been for a Premier League season. But now I thought about it, I am getting a bit excited, especially as Manchester United kick off versus Fulham. Ladies and gents, I've got a couple more Premier League videos coming to you this week on the channel, so make sure you do like the video, subscribe if those interest you. Next week, the Bundesliga starts and we're going to do a couple of videos leading into that as well, Bundesliga videos. It's all good. We've almost hit 25,000 subscribers. We ended the last Premier League season hitting 20,000 a couple of weeks before the end. I did have the ambitious aim of 25 before a ball was kicked for the 24-25 Premier League season. We're a little bit short, so make sure you do subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow for a video where we look at the 24-25 Premier League kits, and some of them are bloody horrendous. Just look at this Southampton away. Christ.